This is part 2 of our special edition for Family Boot Camp and for Light of Hope, Hope Wednesday. I am Elisa Flakes, and I am sharing with you just some pointers to get you through the holidays and through the end of the year. I am really concerned that this is a very contentious season for the whole United States. You all know it's voting season. So within voting season is an opportunity for the enemy to really work havoc and to create more contention and more division within families. If we're going to be a family and if we're going to be one, we're going to have to do that on purpose. We're going to have to first, this is what my husband and I talked about, and it rang so true in my soul. We're going to have to first be united with Christ. We're going to have to first be step and key. We're going to have to be aligned with God in unity so that we can perpetuate unity in our families and in the earth. The whole world is going to be upset in the next few weeks, regardless of if Trump wins or if Harris wins. It's just going to be unrest. And that unrest, it fuels as energy in the earth. And family members are going to be even more challenged. The enemy is going to inflate this season of contention, and he's going to start arguments, and he's going to start debates, and he's going to start division, more division within families, within friends. And I'm focusing on families particularly because charity begins at home. But what you can do to protect yourself from that is remember that you are called to walk in kingdom. Your values are the values of God. And even if you don't agree, you don't have to be disagreeable. You could respectfully share what thus saith the Lord. You can respectfully listen. And even if it's someone's opposite opinion, it is okay to let them speak, and they are declaring their choice. People are declaring their choice at the ballots. They're declaring their values, what's most important to them. And so it is not a time to fight. It's a time to listen. And if you're a believer, it is a time for you to model what is most important. It's time to be a witness because you can't convince other believers what the word says because they read it already. If they reject it and if they compartmentalize their spirituality and their voting, you can't do anything about that. So what you can do to create peace is to hold peace, hold the truth of the fact that you know what the Bible says. You know how God would vote if he had to go to the ballots. Someone said, hold your nose and vote because there's no perfect candidate. And I agree. But God, if he had to stand on the side of creating a society of peace, we know what he would do. Peace in the form of protecting the family structure, I should say. God is for family. And so this is not a ploy to get you to vote. This is a ploy to remember, stand on your biblical square in peace. Stand on your biblical square in peace. Don't compartmentalize. You don't have to, but you get to respectfully stand on your square in peace and understand that it's a time to pray because the Bible talks about the spirit of the enemy being at war with the spirit of God. So what we are also seeing are spiritual wars. There's an enmity against the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the Antichrist. And so that has to be something that we're discerning of, that we're prayerful of. And those of you who are leaders in your family, those of you who call yourself spiritual, then that means you may have to take a fast days out. That means you have to really pray for the unity of your family because a lot of families are going to be broken because of this election. It is important that you set your boundaries early and that you realize that you don't have to compromise and that you don't have to give in, but that you can assert your godly values and represent the kingdom. It is important that you leave this season in love, in fellowship with your family, because the Bible tells us to follow peace with all men. And it also admonishes us to seek peace as much as possible. Now, we know in some families there's no peace to be kept because there's no peace. But as much as lies within you as a believer, Our job is going to be the family peacekeeper. Someone's got to act like they have sense, my aunt used to say, and you have to decide if it's going to be you. Is it going to be you? Are you going to hold on to your family during this time? Or are you going to let the bitterness of the election and choice cause you to separate from your family? The enemy is on a rampage to destroy families. He's on a rampage. And I'm just so concerned as a mental health professional and as a kingdom citizen that people are being deluded into believing that they should just separate from their family based on political views. If anything, you should have a conversation. If anything, you should invite someone to church. If anything, you should pray with another believer who doesn't see some of the things as wrong that God sees wrong. And maybe you should just pray for them and have the conversation. One of the tactics of the enemy is to just create a Babel. The enemy knew about Babel. He was there. He saw what happens when languages are confused. We are now speaking Democrat language, Republican language, saved language, unsaved language, all of these languages, and we're not able to come together. The enemy is inflating that difference. But what we have to do is speak the language of love, which is respect, having mercy on people, and being willing to hear people's thought process, regardless of how it sounds, and being able to demonstrate the love of God. Listening is a form of love. Communicating is a form of love because it's saying that you care enough about the person to invite them into your inner world. And so that's really important. Again, I just want to encourage you to love on your family members. Don't let this be another point of contention at the Thanksgiving table, the Christmas table, but you can decide, you can be very intentional about what you let into your family. You get to be very intentional about how you want your family to end this year. You get to be very intentional about the atmosphere, the love, the joy, the peace that you want your family, all of your family to experience. And then you get to set boundaries around that. You get to set boundaries around that. And boundaries are not, you don't weaponize boundaries, but boundaries are protective love lines. It's what you do to protect the things and the people you love. So bringing boundaries is just respecting the fact that everyone has differences and everyone needs to be safe and everyone has a right to their opinions. Everyone have a right to their preferences. Boundaries are needed in these last months, particularly. They're needed. You can still love someone if you erect an appropriate boundary. You can still fellowship with your family for the holidays, even after this election, if you set up the right boundaries. And the boundaries can be for yourself too. I'm not going to allow myself to be upset. I'm not going to bring this conversation up because discussing it during a festive time is not going to be conducive to understanding. You have to consider the environment. You have to gain the love and the trust of someone. Someone who loves you should be able to listen to you. And sometimes we want people to listen to us, and we haven't even built a relationship that is able to hold a conversation. Love holds conversations. I'm going to say that again because sometimes we think we love people and we think people love us. And they do with the love that they have. But the godly love of God, it allows room for conversation. Our best example of that is Adam and Eve. When they were in the garden, love held court with them after they sinned. God's love was the foundation and the container for them to have a conversation about what they did. Love is a container. Love is a container. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love thinks no evil. Love forgives. Love doesn't keep count of wrongdoing. Love is God. Love is merciful. Love is peaceable. And that kind of love is the love that we're going to need to sustain families throughout this holiday season after the election and beyond. I know that sometimes our efforts of being loving are met with challenges and are met with people who don't want it, but that doesn't mean it's not valid. God honors love. There is going to be an accounting for the love that we showed for ourselves, for God first, ourselves, and other people, specifically our family. God is calling us to love one another. And I'm just going to be transparent. It's not always easy. You may find yourself loving people like with kingdom love, and finding that people don't love you with kingdom love. So I'll never say that people won't love you, but they won't love you with kingdom love. And God has prescribed kingdom love as the only love that can heal us, as the only love that can make us whole. It's safety, it's healing. It is what God subscribed for human relationships. Love is the glue that can fight against division and all of the contention that is in the earth. My prayer for you and your family and my family, because I'm not exempt, is that we would take the love of God and that we would possess it for ourselves and that we would share it. And by sharing it, we will model it, not just talking about it, but that we will walk the walk of love, that we would live in love, that we would demonstrate love. That is my prayer, and that is God's will for our lives. God bless you.